Testing 1, 2. We're going live in 1 minute, everybody. 1 minute. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. We got David Dorsey joining us for a few minutes to start the show, and then Jim Adderholt, Town Councilman Jim Adderholt, followed by Byron Donalds running for Congress, the 19th District, along with 17,000 other people. So that's coming up at 9:30. So the sound is good. All right, we got 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Beach Talk Radio.
Hi, I'm Jim Levins, and I'm running for Lee County Sheriff. For more than 30 years, I've served on the front lines of law enforcement, all right here in Lee County. Now, as radicalized Democrats attempt to open our borders, destroy our churches, and defund the police, it is more important than ever to have a pro-cop, pro-Trump, pro-law and order sheriff who won't give in to the liberal mob and who will fight for you each and every day. That's exactly who I am, and that's exactly what I'll do. I'm Jim Levins, running for Lee County Sheriff, and I approve this message.
This is Beach Talk Radio.
Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. This is your captain speaking, Mean Gene. Mean Gene. The following will be a test of the ship's whistle, the sonar alarm, the cable alarm, and the atomic attack alarm.
Live from Peach Time Out in the heart of Times Square. You're listening to Beach Talk Radio with Kim and Ed Ryan.
And a good morning, everybody, and welcome to episode number 125 of Beach Talk Radio. My name is Ed Ryan. The wife will be along with us in just a moment, and Jim Adderholt, our first guest, will be joining us right after we check in with David Dorsey, who is with the Fort Myers News Press. David, how are you today? Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on again.
So, yeah, David, last time you were here, you were talking about your book, which, what was that, for Father's Day? Is when we had you on around Father's Day?
Right before Father's Day, I came on and we were talking about Fourth Down in Dunbar, and which is about the NFL players who grew up in the Dunbar communities of Fort Myers.
Great. And now the reason we wanted to have you on was because yesterday you had a killer article in the News Press, and we encourage everybody not only to check out David's article in the News Press, but subscribe if you can. It's the only way we're going to keep great reporters like David and Michael Braun and the others at the press working, and we really need them, the newspaper reporters around like these folks. And David, can you tell us a little bit about the article? It was where you reported on the fact that the murder at the Lani Kai led to the TPI lawsuit being dropped. So what did you uncover?
Yeah, so I had been on the Margaritaville beat about a year and a half ago, and then one of my colleagues kind of took over looking at that issue and what's been going on down there. He just moved back to Tennessee, so I kind of re-inherited the beat again. So it took me a while to get my feet wet again and to get to know who the players are on Fort Myers Beach again. But what I learned was really there was kind of a straight line between the murder of Johnny Jackson on July 14th and the intensified talks between Fort Myers Beach leaders, Mayor Ray Murphy, Jackie Lizek, and I'm sorry if I butchered her name, but she's the president of the Chamber of Commerce of Fort Myers Beach. They really renewed their efforts to talk to the Conaderas family, the owners of the Lani Kai Resort where the murder took place. And it really kind of galvanized the community on Fort Myers Beach. The town council had a meeting on Monday, and it was packed for what a packed meeting can be during a pandemic of coronavirus. But if you saw the meeting, you saw the passion from the residents of the beach. They just want to get the north end of the island cleaned up, and then the lawsuit on Wednesday was officially dropped. So that's big news. That means the Margaritaville Resort can proceed. There's a lot of work left to be done.
So, David, one of the things that was brand new news was that you announced who the person was that got that got killed, that was the first time that that name was ever published anywhere. I think there was some speculation about who it was, but can you tell us how you got that information?
Yeah, so it just someone that I know had reached out to me, informing me, and I said, "Well, can you verify it?" And he led me into contact with Johnny's brother, and I connected with Johnny's brother via Facebook, which is how we can get some of our work done these days. And his brother did not want to do a phone interview, didn't want to meet with me, really didn't want a lot of attention, but I convinced him to let me use a comment that he sent me in a message, and I just felt
there you go.
as a reporter. Yeah, there you are. I see you now.
There you go.
I felt it was important to get the name of the person who was killed and out there. He was someone's brother, someone's son, and so I took care to get that in the story.
Great. Anything else about that story and the research that you did that you'd like to tell us about before we let you go?
Yeah, well, really, I'm pretty sure that lawsuit would have been dropped without the murder. I just reading between the lines and talking to the sources that I quoted, and it just seems like it did accelerate things, and I think it opened the eyes of the Lanakai leaders to the gravity of the problem, and it's tough to reach that moment of humility where, oh wow, well, we really need to take a look at ourselves and make some changes, and so it'll be interesting to see how things proceed from here on out. And the other thing I want to note is at the end of the story, I mean, Tom Torgerson, he's the CEO of TPI Hospitality. They got to come up with some funding now, because that thing was just sort of in limbo, and life goes on, and coronavirus is circling the economy. So there is still some more hurdles to clear before we start seeing the buildings from the 1960s and 70s being raised not far from where you are right now.
All right, David. And by the way, folks, it's, what is it, like 99 cents a month or 99 cents for 3 months or something? I mean, it really isn't a lot of money for you to subscribe online to the news press, right? I mean, it's
cheaper than coffee, and I'd like to think it's more important than coffee, but I'm not a big coffee drinker. So, I have some more stories planned on that and some other important subject. Did you say you having Byron Donalds on the show today?
Right, 9:30 we have Byron on.
What's that?
At 9:30 we have him on today. Yeah.
Actually, I'll have a story, political story, about a week from now that will run about some of the nasty flyers that we've been getting in the mail. So
I got a giant stack of them with me today. Yeah, it's crazy how your mailbox is full of those every day, and who knows what to believe when you see those things. So.
Well, some people put them straight to the recycling bin, but I've been collecting them because I want to write about them.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, great story. I think you wrote the story on the guy that owns the Kia. Have they found him yet? Is he okay? The Kia owner.
Yeah. So, Billy Fusillo, and he's sort of vanished from the public eye. And really, other than rumors and stuff, they're not talking. The company's not talking. Wow. The family's not talking. So that's really okay. So, yeah, I hope he's doing well, and because I built a pretty good rapport with him. Another quick thing, I did have a story on the front page of the news press today. If you like beer and you want to help an 8-year-old suffering from leukemia, I wrote about Aiden Pittman. And he is going to St. Petersburg for the next 100 days for treatment. Oh. And the Fort Myers Brewing Company, they're taking pre-orders on a beer today, and today only. And it's called Aiden Strong. Wow. And all the profits from today's Fort Myers Brewing Company sales of Aiden Strong will go to the family to pay the extraordinary medical expenses. And One of the Tampa Bay Rays players saw my story on Twitter yesterday. Shane McClanahan, he's from Cape Coral, a local guy, first-round draft pick by the Tampa Bay Rays. He donated a couple $100 to their fund on GoFundMe,
Nice.
and he's going to try to spread the word. It was just really kind of a feel-good thing to help this family.
Well, we'll get that. We'll post that to our Facebook page, and that's in Gateway, right? That brewery.
Yeah, that's in Gateway, not far from where the Red Sox play at the
We've heard of Gateway
complex, just east of there.
All right, David. Thanks a lot, man. Keep up the great work, and we appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Take care. All right, everybody. David Dorsey from the Fort Myers News Press, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me on today.
And that was David talking about his story about the Lani Kai and the lawsuit being dropped. And we appreciate him coming on. He does some great work. And of course, we always want to thank our sponsors, Pete's Time Out. And we're going to be telling you about all the sponsors throughout the morning. But we want to get right to more of our great content from today. And we're going to switch over to our other camera and see how this works. You know, we're always trying new things here to see if we can make this work. And for all I know, we're going to be blasted right off the air. But there he is right there, the councilman from the town council. We might need you to move in just a little bit more, Jim. And Jim Adderholt is with us. And Jim, we appreciate you coming on. We have not had you on since you've been elected to the council, I believe. This is your first time back. So what's it like? How do you like it?
I do enjoy it. It's been an adventure, somewhat of a challenging adventure given the COVID challenges that we face. But I have found it to be very interesting, and I think the people have been very, very helpful and supportive, and we're making progress.
One of the things I asked Dan Allers when he came on was what is the difference between being on the LPA than being on the council? Like some time to yourself and now no time to yourself?
Well, it's not no time to yourself, but it certainly is a much more significant lift than the LPA. Although the LPA is takes some time, but it's more, it comes in waves. The council is relatively constant, and the constituent communication is demonstrably higher, and that's okay. But people have been great, a lot of good input, and I'm learning a lot. It's been a great experience.
First question before we get into the meat of the nuisance abatement board.
Nothing going on this week. It's pretty quiet week.
Crazy, great week for the town here. What was the first thing you thought when you heard about the murder?
It was shocking, and it was a tragedy, and after a couple of days, to me, it's it began to build the pressure, I think, for change on this island in a way that I had not seen yet, and that coupled with the litigation that had recently occurred, you could just feel the pressure on the island rising, and people were beginning to stir, and you could sense that. It was palpable.
Why did it take a murder for things to get to the point that they had gotten after 3,000 calls to the Lani Kai over the last 3 years?
I don't know. I mean, maybe some time after the shooting, I realized that, in order for this thing to really begin to turn around, we had to begin to apply pressure, and the media piece of the pressure was really critical. And so we had to figure out a way to get the print media interested. And then we also, because once the print media is interested, then the TV folks come on board, and I'll tell that story in a little bit as to how all that happened. And then you couple that with what the mayor's negotiations were. The mayor did a great job. I just think it was the perfect storm to bring it all together to I think a very positive conclusion.
So do you think, that people just were unaware of the amount of calls that had been there? And then, like you said, it takes something that unfortunately grabs people's attention to really take a look at what was going on there and how significant the issues were.
Yeah, and I think it grabbed everybody's attention, including the folks that are running Lani Kai. And I think, to their credit, they're making some substantial internal changes. They made some significant concessions this week, and I'm very thankful for them for doing that, because, I mean, this is going to sound a little hokey, but I really believe it. I believe it's morning again in Fort Myers Beach. I mean, as I talked about at the hearing on Monday, we were really at a precipice. We were at a fork in the road, and as I said, this is a time for choosing. And I laid out two paths, and fortunately, again, thanks to the Conadares family for helping us along in this, is the path that we have chosen is as follows. We have a brand new Estero Boulevard with new sidewalks, bike paths, and stormwater system. We're going to have a refurbished Times Square soon, a refurbished Bayside Park. We're going to have a Margaritaville resort, which is going to have a tremendously positive impact on this part of the island. We're going to have a new bridge on the south end. We're going to have basically a brand new recreational and community center in Bay Oaks. It's a renaissance for this island, and it's a beautiful vision, and I'm really encouraged, and I hope the people of this island are encouraged as well, and I think it's time for us all to move forward together.
So when you saw the folks come to the council meeting on Monday, one after another, public comment, and very passionate about what was going on and the crime, and the sheriff's department sometimes not helping out. Even there was one person that said that they didn't even answer her calls. What were your thoughts when you saw all that?
Well, let's get to Monday, because there was quite a bit of activity that led us to Monday, and you guys were very helpful in getting people to turn out Monday, which was the people that turned out Monday were awesome. Kim, you were there. Yep. Thank you for coming. It was awesome. The courage, the conviction of the people that were there. I was so proud of this island. But leading up to Monday, I had asked our town manager to get the stats from the fire department as to what the runs were for the top 10 addresses. And the fire chief was great getting that information. The town manager disseminated it to the town council. The numbers were stunning. You guys have talked about the sheriff runs. The fire department runs are just stunningly disproportionate. So I thought, we got to get the media involved. So I had read an article after the shooting from Mike Braun at the News Press, who I think works well with Dave Dorsey, you were just talking to. And I sent this to Mike, and the next day I got an email from one of our constituents, John Thomas, who I don't think she'll mind if I mention her name, but she had aggregated the sheriff's department data in a way that was really powerful as well. Numbers were stunning. So I sent that to Mike Braun as well. And he said, well, can we all get together? And he goes, could you find some business owner who has concerns? And we were just happened to meet for lunch at the Whale, and Mike, Marty Harity got together with us. And Marty, of course, shared his concerns because it's really impacting his business adversely. And we spent an hour helping Mike Braun get up to speed and giving him all this information. And at the end of that hour, he says to us, he goes, well, this is really interesting, but what's the action item? I need an action item for the news story. And then I was really reticent to say this because I'd heard that Dan Allers was in negotiations with the sheriff's department on this nuisance abatement ordinance. But I felt like if we didn't share that, then we're going to lose the story. And so I said, you really need to reach out to Councilor Allers. He's working on a nuisance abatement ordinance that will give the town the power to fine and potentially shut down entities that are problematic for the island. His eyes just lit up. And he says, I will be there at that council meeting on Monday, and I'll be there early. And so all of a sudden, he shows up Monday. Great turnout at the town. Again, thanks in part to your show. Great turnout. People's testimony, extremely powerful. So Tuesday morning, we get a great article from the News Press. Dave Dorsey does a piece on the litigation. Mike Braun does a piece on the nuisance abatement board. Front page, top of the fold. Pressure's on. Pressure. So what happens next? Tuesday night, Wing TV, Fox local channel, does great stories on this issue. Again, people are brave enough to go on record for these TV reporters. Pressure. Wednesday morning, surprise of all surprises, the Observer comes out. 3 stories on the front page of the Observer. They did a great job of covering this issue. Pressure. Again, mayor's working his magic. They come to an agreement to move forward. And again, the island's in a much better place. So I'm thankful to Condare's family. I'm thankful for everybody who had the courage to be involved in this process. Because initially there was a mindset that, the town can't do anything. We don't control the sheriff's department. We don't control the state entities that regulate the liquor licenses. There's nothing we can do. When you say that, it takes the pressure off. You got to have the pressure on. So in the midst of all this, again, Councilor Allers is working with the sheriff's department. They opened the sheriff's outreach center. Jackie Litzek from the chamber is heavily involved in all this. Businesses are donating their time and money to build this little outreach center, higher presence for the sheriff. Who donates the building for the outreach center? The guy who owns Margaritaville. I mean, does anybody see the irony in all that? But the key thing was that helped build the pressure. So when Monday's hearing occurred, and all the media coverage that resulted, all the bravery of the people of this island who spoke out, I just think they reached a precipice where things had to change, and they did in a positive way. And I'm not here to rehash all that. I just wanted to give you the backstory of how that helped come to be.
Well, thank you for joining us, everybody, today. Have a great weekend. And just kidding. You laid it out perfectly. I don't know. Well, let's talk about the nuisance abatement board, to be specific about that for a little bit, because Vice Mayor Hassafras said something at the meeting that really, I mean, I latched on to, and I posted her comment about it, her quote about it. And a lot of people, not a lot, I don't know what the number is. I mean, we have 9 listeners, but a few people posted that another government layer. I mean, isn't there enough government? And, how is this thing going to work? And, how 10 years from now, maybe, Peach Time Out does something the next council doesn't like. And so why a nuisance abatement board? Why isn't there enough teeth in what we have now, like a sheriff's department, a code enforcement? If all these things are going on, it seems like we're creating something that what?
Well, let me because I think to add to that was the statement that was made by one of the sheriff's deputies there, who was like, I need something to go forward on. So I guess the question is, do you need different ordinances with teeth, or this nuisance abatement board? Or
before
what?
Jim answers that, for the people that don't know, the sheriff, somebody from the sheriff's department was at the council meeting on Monday, and this came up, and I thought Rexanne was going to come across the table and say to him or strangle him, because he basically said, and I'm paraphrasing, that we have to have the calls in order to answer the calls, or there has to be a crime in order for us to go. And I was yelling at the screen, 3,000 calls aren't enough. I mean, how many more do you need before somebody like the sheriff goes over there and, well, wait, there's a political sign under the Lonnie Kai sign. There's not something being done. I mean, so that's what I'm getting at. I mean, there's laws on the books now. Why isn't that enough, Jim?
Well, it's a fair question. I love Rexanne, a lot of respect for her, but I thought the quote in your Facebook page was a little bit. I don't think there was enough context, and let me provide some context. First of all, we don't have our own police department in Fort Myers Beach. These issues have been going on for years. Nothing's happened. So you can either go through the mindset, there's nothing we can do. We don't have our own police department, nothing we can do. Well, there is something we can do, and it's this nuisance abatement board. For my conservative friends, and I'll put my conservative credentials up against anybody's, I think that's a legitimate question. What another bureaucracy, more of this and that. Well, first of all, the state instituted this law that allowed municipalities to adopt one of these boards years ago when they were trying to shut down crack houses. It's extremely limited in scope. So in order for this to have any impact on your world, you have to either be dealing drugs, involved in prostitution, involved in gang activity, or illegal gambling. That's it. So they're not coming after you for not sweeping your sidewalks. They're not coming after you for not trimming your hedges, or for not having your blinds pulled and your lights exposed. None of that. Those are the 4 items. Now, there's 2 additional ones in the proposed ordinance, but I think we're going to take those out because those aren't referenced in state statute. So that being said, very limited in scope. So my hope is we never have to use this thing. But it's a tool in the toolbox, as the sheriff's office said, that's useful for those entities that are habitual offenders who aren't responsive. Again, we don't have our own police department. The mayor can't say to the police department, go over there and clean things up. We don't have any authority to do it. This gives us a tool. Again, and you say, well, future councils, they come in and do crazy things. Well, future councils could adopt a nuisance abatement board, and they can appoint whoever they want on it. You can't bind future councils. So, again, this is just a tool in the toolbox that could really be helpful. And quite honestly, it was really critical in applying the appropriate pressure to get where we are today. So I think it could be really helpful. We have to be careful, though, that we're really, really conscious of not overstepping our bounds. But again, when you don't have your own police force, the town needs some kind of a tool to enhance its public safety. And I think this could be helpful.
Now, you mentioned that two things were brought up that are not in state statute. And one of them, I believe, was an alcohol related.
Right.
And that, I mean, not having that in can you explain to people what that was that would have to come out? Because I think some people were like, well, that would really be helpful.
It is, but one of them, it's if you're doing illegal alcohol sales to minors, etc. That could under in the Lee County ordinance, that could be under the jurisdiction of the nuisance abatement board. The problem is that was not in the state statute that authorized the nuisance abatement board. So one could argue you could litigate that in court and not be successful. That's the state's job, is to come in with their excise police and do the policing of the liquor license, underage sales, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, it's a challenge. I mean, if you keep it in, it sounds like it could be helpful, but again, if it's litigated and you lose, so our lawyers are looking in to see whether that makes sense or not, whether that would pass muster. And Rexanne raised a legitimate concern about that. And so we're looking at it, but I still think, there's no shortage of drug dealing and prostitution and gang activity. So there'll be plenty for the nuisance abatement board to look at, but it'll be very limited in scope. But again, some of these nuisance abatement boards have been inactive for years now, but they served a purpose at one time. I talked to the head of the nuisance abatement board at Fort Myers, and they shut places down. They've instituted fines. Now they haven't done anything in the last year and a half, but it's always there. That tool is always in the toolbox. And don't think that for really bad actors, don't think that doesn't put the fear of God in them, to know that that's out there and it's available to the town and cities.
So the crimes that you mentioned were serious crimes. I mean, drug dealing and prostitution and whatever
gang activity.
So my assumption is that the only reason you're putting that together is because something is going on. You wouldn't be putting it together if that activity wasn't going on the beach.
Yeah, it has gone on, is going on, and potentially could go on.
But that, to me, that's a serious crime. Then why isn't the sheriff's department dealing with it in the way that could be something that leads to them changing? Well, they are kind of changing now, so I don't want to discredit that. They seem to be making changes, and you mentioned that they have some kind of company coming in to try and help them make changes too. So maybe that's going in the right direction. But I know you want to keep the pressure on. But I guess my question is, those are serious crimes. And we're talking about 3 years of activity of those crimes. Why isn't the sheriff's department doing something?
Well, I think you saw that tension in the colloquy between Councilor Hasselfrost and the sheriff's department. The sheriff office representative was basically saying, hey, we react to these crimes and we respond to them. And she was like, oh, wait a minute. What about being proactive? What about going undercover? What about doing all these things? Because she's got a history in the courts as well. So that's a healthy tension, and that's a conversation that should be had. But, the sheriff's office did step up. They helped us with the nuisance abatement board. They've helped us with this outreach center. So, could they do more? I really think they could do more. So, but it's some give and take, and we need to have these conversations. But the town doesn't have any control over this. For 3 years, nothing's happened. Nuisance abatement board gets referenced, things start happening. So credit goes to the Councilor Allers for bringing this thing up. Credit goes to the people who showed up and the media that helped really give this thing a voice, and credit goes to the Conadaris family and quite frankly to Jackie Litzek at the chamber and so many others. And the mayor obviously was critical in this. So we've had it was this perfect storm, and everybody came together to talk about this new vision that I just referenced earlier in the show, which is a vision of optimism, a vision of a new renaissance for this island. And so again, I'm willing to put things behind us. Obviously, things have to change. The Lonnie Kai's acknowledge that they have to change. They've put significant steps in place. They're going to do more. We won't have to trust them on that, although I take them at their word that they're going to make a good faith effort. But as Reagan said a long time ago, used to always quote this old Russian saying, "Dovii no provii," which means trust but verify. So we don't have to trust anybody. We have the numbers from the fire department. We have the numbers from the sheriff's office. We'll be able to know 6 months from now or 3 months from now whether if these reforms have actually resulted in significant changes. And if they have, God bless them. Let's move forward and let's not look back. But if they haven't, we've got tools in our toolbox now to hold folks accountable.
What about tools in terms of fines? Because I know that Rexanne was talking about, when you guys were talking about something to do with it, and a $5,000 fine, and she was like, well, that's really not enough.
Yeah, I mean, the fine issue, you can, and I didn't disagree with her. The fine, it wasn't substantial, but don't forget that the nuisance abatement board also has in its hip pocket the ability to shut down a premise. You don't think that scares folks? You don't think that sends a message? That's real. I mean, that's bigger than any fine issue. But we can look at the fine issue. I thought it was interesting that she was talking about raising the fines, but then didn't like the nuisance abatement board. So I'm not really sure where.
Well, could one be done and not the other?
She's asking good questions.
Yeah, could something be implemented because when you look at the cost, and I don't remember who it was at the meeting brought up the cost for that number of
the cost is minimal because the 7-member nuisance abatement board is not paid. They're volunteers from our community.
The cost of to
litigate it.
No. The cost of the fire department going on this excessive number of.
That's a great question, but that's a different issue. And quite frankly, the fire board, fire commission, they have jurisdiction over the fire department. Town council does not. The town or the fire commission, and I've talked to a number of the members, and they've been very responsive. They can look at some metrics to begin to charge entities that are disproportionately using their resources. Okay. I mean, the fire department's for everybody. Everybody pays their property taxes. But if you look at some of the fire runs, and the disproportionate number of them, yeah, I think somebody should be charged for especially when you go way beyond what your norm is. And quite honestly, that means the taxpayers are subsidizing this entity.
Right,
So
right.
that's got to stop. But that's a key issue. And the sheriff's office could implement something like that as well.
So last question on that, because there are other topics. Do you have the support to get this approved?
Well, I think we do, and we're vetting this thing. I mean, there was a great exchange on Thursday. Everybody asked a lot of really good questions. Our lawyer's still researching it. I think we've got the votes, and again, it's just a tool in the toolbox. I think we're moving on, but we need something just to make sure that the promises are kept. We don't want to sit here and just bash everybody again. We're done with all that. It's time to move forward as an island, but this tool in the toolbox will help ensure that going forward, we've got the ability to hold folks accountable for the promises that they've made. And I think that's healthy. And I think, again, we'll make some modest changes to make sure, we keep this entity in check so it doesn't go rogue, so it doesn't have, powers that are irresponsible, because I'm very sensitive to that. But I just think, given what it's already helped us accomplish, I think it could be a nice a tool. And again, I hate to use this reference, but the tool in the toolbox. I think it could be really helpful. And I think we do have the votes.
And just to let everyone know, we're all willing to move on and move forward. We'd love for Ken Conadieris to come on the show so that we could all bury the hatchet together and have him explain the things that are going on down there and the changes that they're making to become, a great neighbor on the island. I'm not saying they weren't not a good neighbor back in the years past. We know Mr. Conadieris has done great things for the island, and he's been here a long time, and we'd love for them to come on, or for you, Kim, my wife, to go over there and ask the questions yourself, because I could be a prick sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you can be, but I mean, I think that the Lani Kai has been part of this island forever. They offer, affordable and resort style for folks, and that if they can just make it safer and improve, that's a place where people go and get their picture taken. I mean, it's iconic, Florida-esque, and it's part of this community. And as it moves forward, it's all going to fit great together.
Yeah, and their spokesperson in the article, I think it was Dorsey's article on Thursday in the News Press, basically said, I think it was Melissa Schneider said, we welcome them as a neighbor, the Margaritaville as a neighbor to our island, a new neighbor to our island. And she said she also spoke for Bob Conadieris, and I thought that was a very gracious statement. And they're clearly looking to move forward, and I think everybody else is as well.
So next issue is I'm very confused about Bay Oaks and Times Square and Bayside Park and where that money's coming from.
Well, you should have been there then, because you explained it eloquently.
There seems to be a $10 million loan that the town council will ask
line of
for.
Credit.
But,
line of credit, very good.
Okay, but that is not going to be enough, even for Bay Oaks right now. What they seem like is going on over there. So how is all that going to work?
You take it.
The vision of the previous council was to set up appropriate funding streams for the renovation of Bay Oaks, which is roughly it's a $10 million total. And again, these numbers will vary given how we decide to prioritize each project. But Bay Oaks is about $5.5 million. Bayside's 1.2 million, and Times Square's I think is 3.4,
Mm-hmm.
and so it roughly totals 10 million. And so I think there was a little confusion when the previous council passed the mill rate increase last year that was going to somehow fund these projects. Really, what it does is help fund the payment for the $10 million loan, because that raises about $250 million. I'm sorry, $250,000 annually. That mill rate increase from last year. And the service on the loan is something like
$558.
Boy, Kim, you are so good. $558,000 annually, and so we have a shortfall. So how do we fill that shortfall? Well, the council, I think very wisely so, decided to no longer subsidize for general fund dollars the stormwater system for the town. So those rates will be adjusted to impact those who are utilizing the stormwater system. But it frees up significant funds for the general fund, which will make up that difference.
Right.
So we will have a funding stream for that $10 million loan. Now, I think your question, Ed, is, the Bay Oaks project, as they've gotten into this, they proposed some wonderful options, but it may go above the 5.5 million. And so at that point, there isn't a funding stream available beyond that unless we reprioritize from other projects. Or we find a new funding stream, or we kind of try to make some make some choices within the Bay Oaks project. We got to, there's a lot of, different buildings. There's a lot of different turfs. There's a lot of different choices. So, I mean, it's all about, when you're doing budgeting, it's all about choices. So the Bay Oaks folks, again, it's a wonderful project and I support it, but they are going to have to prioritize a little bit in terms of what their priorities are.
And Roger, made a good point, a couple of good points. He said when the Bay Oaks, when it first started, it was just to do
that welcome center,
welcome center and the entrance. And then, and he agreed that the whole thing needed to be done. But the impetus, the original was just that. And that it's going to be a phased, or, that it was intended to be a phased kind of project. And I know when I was listening to the BORCAB meeting recently, and the Little League guy was there, Rick Lowry, he was saying, once they get it going, that they could raise money, that there's other possible donations that could come in, other agencies raising money, so that to make that, to fit that shortfall.
And there's additional revenue that'll come into the town. People don't talk about this very much, but if Margaritaville gets built, the property tax revenue for the town will be in the hundreds of thousands. For the county, it'll be in the millions. And I mean, theoretically, that could already have been built. So that revenue stream would be coming into the town, which could help supplement the Bay Oaks project. But I do think it's important for the Bay Oaks vision to make some choices, prioritize a little bit. And if we need to do some things down the road, I'm certainly open to that.
So when is Times Square going to start?
Theoretically next year, as I understand. They're going to try to time it with some water and stormwater work that has to be done through here. They're talking about redesigning the whole footprint for the coming over the bridge, traffic patterns. You've got Margaritaville going on. So somebody smarter than me is going to have to figure out how to do this in concert with each other, with all these projects. So we could be at least disruptive to our businesses here, to our tourist community, and to our residents, because it's going to be a challenge to try to coordinate all these various projects. But let me just say, it's just as the Estero Boulevard project was a nightmare for the north. Well, now that it's done, it's beautiful, and we're going to have to kind of suffer a little bit, but it's going to be worth it.
Is there anyone smarter than you?
Oh, there's a lot of people smarter than me. There's my wife right over there. She's a lot smarter than me.
I will agree with that.
Yeah.
So before we let you go, I know Byron's here, and we could go on for a whole hour.
Oh, I know.
I do want to ask you if you will tell us how you will vote on the Dune walkover.
I will not tell you how I will vote on the Dune
Good for
walkover
you.
because it's currently it's not in litigation yet, but there is a Bert Harris claim that's been filed, and we have 150 days to negotiate, and I have some concerns about the Dune walkover. I live in that critical wildlife area. As I was telling Kim before the show, the condo that we live in, I saw a picture the other day before it was built. In 1991, there was a giant lagoon in front of our building, very similar to what they're facing up in front of Eddie's place. And you know what? I talked to people that lived there from the beginning. They said, we didn't like that. We had to wade through it. It was a disaster. We had to go around it. We really couldn't even wade through it. Some people loved it because it was a beautiful bird sanctuary. And 15 years later, it's gone. We have direct beach access, so that the island shoreline is evolving. And and it's a beautiful area, and it's so different because it's quiet, and there is a nature preserve aspect to it, of course. So I'm struggling with this thing, and you're the fence sitter, it seems, on the council. I don't know about fence sitting. I'm
sorry, I didn't mean it that way. I mean, you're the deciding vote.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know about that either, but I do know that I think this is an issue we need to really look long and hard at. I don't begrudge the folks that are asking for this. I understand it. It makes their life a lot easier, but I'm really protective of that critical wildlife area, even in the areas that adjoin it. So I'm struggling.
We're going to have Eddie on next week. He's flying in from Texas to be on the show. And so it sounds like this is going to a Bert Harris lawsuit.
I don't know yet. There's 150 days to have conversations, to
Gotcha.
have discussions, and I think anything's possible. I'm certainly an open-minded person, but right now, I'm
waiting to see the evidence.
I'm a little concerned about the situation, and I'm a little concerned about the Dune walkover. But I'll keep an open mind.
So things are different now compared to when you were on the LPA and voted.
When I was on the LPA, none of the opposition came before us.
Gotcha.
All we heard was one side, and since then I've had a chance to hear the other side and understand the issue a little deeper. And again, I have respect for the people that are the applicants here. I have no animosity, but as I hear the other side of this issue, I've educated myself in a way that's made me certainly much more sympathetic.
Great. Well, Jim, thanks so much for coming on. You're always a great guest.
Thank
and
you. Thanks for all you do.
we
Thanks
hope
for
you come
getting folks
back.
out on Monday. The people that came Monday to that hearing were spectacular. I was so proud of our island. Really courageous, bold statements. People went on the record, showed some real guts, some real heart, and I'm just so proud
There
of
were
our
a
island.
lot of passionate statements.
And I'm excited for the renaissance of this island, because this island is going no place but up. And it's for those who are here and those that are coming here. I hope they're encouraged, because these next 2 years are going to be really exciting for Fort Myers Beach.
Thanks so much, Jim.
Thank
See you
you so
again
much.
soon.
All
right,
Thanks
thank you
a
so
lot.
much.
Jim Adderholt, everybody, town council member of the Fort Myers Beach, town council. So before we introduce our next guest, I want to let you know about islandoils.com. They repel the bugs. You know what your job is now, right? To do the transition here while I read the ads. I don't know how many times we have to go through this. At least you didn't interrupt me like last night. It soothes the itch if it's already bitten. 100% oil, 100% works. No water added. Oil and water don't mix, everybody. It's made in Florida by Floridians, and it smells fabulous. 100% oil, but absorbs well and is also a nice moisturizer. You can order it online at islandoilsllc.com. We love those guys for sponsoring us. The stuff is great. We use it all the time in the backyard. And we're going to be at the Hyatt Coconut Point for Kimmy's little birthday later on today. So we're probably going to be spraying that on ourselves down there. Our next guest is running for the 19th Congressional District for the U.S. Congress. Byron Donalds, welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, everybody. It's good being here.
Now, you are involved in one of the busiest races, or I don't know if busy is the right word, but it's crazy.
Crowded.
Yeah,
It's a crowded
races.
race.
How are things going?
Actually, things are going great. It's a crowded race. Unfortunately, for everybody listening, I want to apologize to you. It's been a nasty race. This is what happens, unfortunately, when people want to win at all costs. But, my campaign, we're going great. We think we're very close to winning. And so we're just going to continue to work hard, knock on doors, could be in every part of the district, like we're here this morning in Fort Myers Beach, and just work hard to hopefully represent Southwest Florida in Congress.
So give our folks on the beach an idea of your background in politics. You're in Tallahassee now, and you've been
Right.
there. So explain all that.
Full background. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. My career is actually in banking and insurance and financial services. I'm a partner in a wealth management firm down in Naples where I lived. I've lived in Naples for 17 years. I got into politics 10 years ago, really because of what was happening in the country with the financial collapse. So I was one of those people that was just in my business, in my career, saw the country falling apart financially, and I got off the couch and got involved through the Tea Party movement. So I joined in the Tea Party movement a decade ago. I was elected to the Florida legislature in 2016. I have one of the most conservative voting records in the Florida legislature. In this race, I'm endorsed by Senator Rand Paul, the NRA, the Club for Growth, Americans for Prosperity, and the Republican Liberty Caucus. And actually on Thursday, I'm counting my days. Days are going crazy right now. On Thursday, we were endorsed by the House Freedom Fund, which is the political arm of the House Freedom Caucus. So that's a little bit about me.
Now, I was looking online. You have a lot of endorsements, and quite you're funded. Your campaign's doing well with
Yes.
funds.
Yeah.
So how, there's a couple other candidates that also have a lot of funds, and one that has a lot of endorsements and funds. How do you distinguish and differentiate yourself from the top four folks? So like Dane and Dr. Fig and
Oh, yeah.
Casey Asgar.
Well, first of all, I'd say, my campaign, we've raised over $1 million now, but it's in small donations. We have over 10,000 donors.
Yep.
From all over the country, here in Southwest Florida, all over the country, conservatives from all over who have looked at my campaign and look at what I've done and say, this is a person that should be in Congress. It's a lot of small donations, like over 10,000 donors. Like, it's kind of insane for a congressional campaign. The second thing I would say is that a lot of the groups that are supporting me, these are conservative groups that have vetted conservatives for a long time in our country. The Club for Growth, which is probably the main group that's supporting me on the outside. They've endorsed people and supported people like Ted Cruz when he ran for the U.S. Senate in Texas. They supported Rand Paul when he ran for the U.S. Senate in Kentucky. They supported Mike Lee when he ran for the U.S. Senate in Utah. They supported Marco Rubio back in 2012 when he was running against Charlie Crist. And they've supported Governor DeSantis when he was running for Congress 6 years ago when he ran for Congress. They supported him, and they've looked at my record. And they looked at the record of Dane and Dr. Fig and Casey and everybody else, and they concluded that I was a true conservative in this race. Casey and Dr. Fig don't have a record. I don't know what they've done. And that's not to disrespect them. I think it's a free country. Everybody should run for office if you want to. But if you're talking about going to Congress, we got to make sure that you're going to be a conservative. I have no idea except by watching their ads.
One of the things I've learned during this campaign is that the Republican machine in the state is strong. And when they find a candidate they get behind, it's, you know, everybody else is a serial killer or your drive-by murderer or something like that. And it seems like the negativity toward the other candidates comes from your own party. It's crazy, but I know that's the way it works. So what are the things that they've attacked you on that you want to clear up?
Oh, man. What haven't they attacked me on? First thing I would say is your point's correct. If you're not the machine candidate, you get attacked. I am not the machine candidate. I probably would say that's Mr. Regal. I'm not a self-funding candidate. That's Mr. Asgar and Mr. Fickelstaller, Dr. Fickelstaller. What they attacked me on, when I was 18 and 20, I was arrested when I was in college. You know, I made a lot of mistakes when I was young, but I've made up for them and I moved on with my life. But they try to throw that stuff in 30-second ads as if it happened last week. That's not true. It was more than 20 years ago. I was young and I was stupid. They attacked me. Now they're attacking me because I was a registered Democrat. And so they're saying, like, well, because he was a registered Democrat, that means he supported Obama. That's ridiculous. If you look at my Facebook page from that time, it's clear I did not support Obama. My opponents know this, but they don't give out details and facts. They just throw a smear, frankly, because I'm black and I was a registered Democrat, that they say, oh, well, he voted for Obama. It's ridiculous. And frankly, it's borderline racist. They attacked me because in 2011, I had critical things to say about Donald Trump long before he ran for president. But what they won't tell you is that I was being critical of Barack Obama. My sister brought up Donald Trump. And I told my sister in my Facebook comments, I don't care about Donald Trump. He's not running for president. He's not the president. Barack Obama's the president. That's the person we should be focused on. But they won't tell you that. So I've been labeled everything from a rhino to a never Trumper. I'm being told I support Barack Obama. But if you look at records, I'm the only person in this race that came into politics in the Tea Party movement 10 years ago. I'm the only person in this race that has been in every city council and every county commission, well, except of Christy McLaughlin, I'll mention her, that has actually spoke against mask mandates in Southwest Florida right now. The other candidates have been nowhere to be found. I'm the only person in this race that actually has a record of standing for the Second Amendment, even standing against their own party. I've done that in the Florida legislature.
So you're a Trump conservative. I say that with hesitation because he's not really a conservative, but that's everybody seems to be hugging the president these days in the Republican Party. Why?
Why hug the president?
No, I don't mean that. I mean, why is it a winning strategy to say that Trump is a conservative when he really isn't?
No, the winning strategy is to say that you stand with the president.
Okay.
I stand with the president. I support him. I was never going to support Hillary Clinton.
Right.
That was never going to happen. I'm not supporting Joe Biden.
Right.
I was just on Fox and Friends bashing him for the comments he just made a couple of days ago, which were outrageous comments. But that being said, I support the president because, number one, he has actually helped to restructure our tax code. He has gotten rid of bad regulation. He's created opportunity zones in a lot of our urban corridors to help with economic development. He has actually done some of the reforms in our justice system, the same reforms that Joe Biden actually instituted. I support the president because he actually has done what he said he was going to do.
Right.
And he was very straightforward with that. I don't care about tweets and I don't care about personalities. I want somebody to run the country that's going to do a good job, say what they're going to do, and not be cowed by media and by special interests. That's why I support the president. But I'm also a conservative. I believe in limited government, limited powers at the federal level. I believe in individual liberty, that you and I should be able to make these decisions for ourselves. We'll make a far better job making those decisions for ourselves than any government bureaucrat can do or any member of Congress or the United States Senate can do.
Now, when you're talking about making individual decisions and all, I know when you were in the House now, you were on the Education Committee, and you've talked about, I was watching a video, you were at somebody's house just the other night, and you were talking about the schools and school choice. Can you give us your view on that? And you sort of were alluding to the school calendar. Are you saying that we should go full school year? What?
Well, let me take a step back. The number one thing I think we should do in education is that parents should have the ability and the purchasing power to choose where their child goes. In our society, the state government funds education. Mm-hmm. But what we've done in our system is that we only fund education at traditional public schools. And then in Florida, we changed the law 20 years ago to where we'll fund it at charter schools. But if we're going to really empower young people to get a transformative education, if we're going to empower parents to make sure they find the best academic environment for their child, not for all children, for their child, what you want to do is give them the ability to make that purchasing decision. We already pay for it if they go into a public school. Well, why aren't we paying if they go into a private school? If you're really going to be forward thinking and have a true economy in education where people can get the best services for the dollars that are being used, then you want to have a free flowing system like you do in our restaurant business, like you do in the hotel business, like you do in the consumer electronics business, where we seek our own interests, where we use our dollars. And what happens is companies are fighting for our business. And when they fight for our business, they do it by giving the best services. There's no difference if you do that in education. Now to the school year, our school calendar year is based on the agrarian model, where because kids were working on their family farms, the summers off or not to be at the beach, no pun intended. The summers off was to actually be at the family farm to help plant and harvest crops. But we've kept that model just because we've kept it. If we're going to be really thinking about it, summer slide for some of our poorer students is real. So should they be in school for more of a calendar year and the breaks are shorter at different segments of the year? I think so. But that's not a decision for me to make. What you want to do is make sure parents are empowered to make those decisions. So if a school pops up and says, hey, we don't do summer vacation, we do all year schooling with smaller breaks around the year, let parents choose that for themselves. That's my viewpoint.
And that first part that you mentioned, I think it really is damaging to the minority communities.
Oh, yeah.
Because they can't get, they can't afford the kind of schools people that have money can afford. And it really is not fair.
No, that's exactly right. My mom, when I was a kid in Brooklyn, New York, she made that sacrifice. She was still paying taxes to the city of New York, but she wanted a better education for me. So she put me in a private school. So she's paying taxes to the city of New York, to the state of New York. But then at the same time, she's paying for her son to go to a private school. Well, she's being doubly burdened. She was a single black mother in Brooklyn, New York. We didn't have much, but she made that sacrifice for me because she felt that was going to be the best thing in my interests. Every parent wants to make the best decision for their children.
Right.
We should be empowering them to do that, not empowering bureaucracy.
Why such a no-brainer hasn't been able to be changed? It seems like it's an easy decision.
Politics and the teachers union. The teachers union is one of the most powerful lobbies in the country. They oppose this because the teachers union's job, and listen, for the teachers who are listening, teachers are essential to every child learning. But the union's not interested in teachers per se. They're interested in their union and the power of their union. That's what the teachers union is invested in. If parents are making an affirmative decision on where their child goes to school, guess what? You still have to hire teachers. And then actually teachers become more of a priority in that situation because then a school has to make sure they hire the best teachers because the school wants to make sure they have the most students.
Right.
This is what economies do.
Yeah.
This is what happens when people are seeking their own interests.
Do you believe kids should go back to school right now without masks?
I think kids should go back to school. Parents should make that decision. If a parent decides that they don't want to send their child to school, that's their decision as a family. They have to make that for themselves. If you're a blue collar worker, schools closing is a disaster for your family. How are you going to make ends meet? How are you going to put food on the table? There are many decisions that have to be made. I think that this is an individual decision, whether to wear masks or not. Now, for teachers, because they work for the school districts, I'm quite sure like in the restaurants behind us, they are going to be told you have to wear a mask. Just like restaurant employees are told they have to wear a mask. But you're not telling the patrons that they have to wear a mask at the table. That's a decision for the patrons. It should be a decision for the parents alongside with their children. Here's the truth. I got a 9-year-old son. He's not keeping the mask on. He's going to be playing with it, pulling it. But does that mean he can't get an education? That means he can't learn. We can do both. We can manage the pandemic while also living our lives.
Do they work?
Masks? It's negligible. Who knows? The science isn't even clear on whether masks work or not. Here's what I do know. Have one on your face and talk for about 10 minutes. You'll be suffocated because of the CO2 running back in your nose. Because we breathe in oxygen, we breathe out CO2. So even after a while, you have to pull the mask down if you're going to have a continued conversation because you need to take a breath. I'm not sure if do they work to protect coronavirus? We'll see what the data says. But I'll tell you this right now. By the time we figure that out, we'll be past the coronavirus.
Yeah. So I saw a couple of stories this past maybe 24 hours that the race for the president is tightening, which I don't think it was ever that far apart that the media would let you believe. So how do you think this is heading? Where do you think this is heading? And why is it so close when it seems like the president has gotten a lot of the things done, all the tweeting aside, a lot of the things done that he said he was going to do. Why is it this close?
It's this close because the media wants to make it about personalities and they want to make it about fear. They are literally propping up Joe Biden to be the centrist candidate that can provide empathy to the nation. But truth be told, that's not what we need leaders to do. What we need leaders to do is to act. I've always told people who don't particularly like President Trump, what's been the best CEO at a company you worked at? The guy you loved, or the guy who, sometimes was rough, but you know what? He got the job done. And they will tell you it's the guy who's rough who got the job done. So they want to make it about personalities. What we want to make it about is about promises made, promises kept. We want to make it about the agenda, and we want to make it about the things that matter to Americans. The reason why I think this race is going to be close, and I think President Trump is going to win this race, is because people are watching what's going on in many of our cities across the country. They don't like what they see. I'm getting messages from friends of mine from college, Black Americans. They don't like what they see. They don't like that the Democrat Party is simply watching this happening and not stepping up and providing leadership. So I think this is going to be a very interesting election cycle, but I think the president's going to win.
Black Lives Matter, serious organization?
No.
Why not?
Because they're a Marxist organization. Listen, Black Lives Matter, as a black man, yeah, of course they do. That's ridiculous. Everybody's life matters. But this organization, their moniker, their namesake is a moniker that most people agree with without question. Mm-hmm. And so they're intertwining themselves in the emotional idea that all Americans truly do believe in, that yes, Black Lives Matter. Okay, I get that. I hope I get that. But that being said, that doesn't mean you get to push your political agenda. And that organization has a political agenda. Their political agenda stands for actually the destruction of the nuclear family. It's about Marxist policy, about redistributing wealth, about having universal health care. These are the things that they support. Part of their policies are defunding the police. When you defund police departments, like what's happening in my home state of New York right now, mm-hmm. crime goes up. Mm-hmm. The very people you say you want to help are the ones who become disenfranchised. So I don't support that organization. I don't support their political agenda. But the namesake that they have, that Black Lives Matter, yeah, of course they do.
How much heat do you get for that when you say you don't support it? Do you, or maybe you don't get any? Do you?
I do. I get most of the heat comes from white liberals. White liberals are the ones that typically provide me the most angst being a black conservative. I think, black people overall, they may not agree with me or they may not like Donald Trump, but they say as a black man, they're like, I want you to be successful as a black man. They understand that it's important for black people to have a place in politics on both sides of the aisle. Mm-hmm. They understand that, and black people generally want black people to succeed. The real pushback I get is from white liberals because I'm a complete affront to everything that they believe. And they're nasty about it. They're actually quite disgusting about it. I'll tell you, the nastiest comments I get are from white liberals who won't say it to my face, by the way.
Yeah.
They won't come and talk to me personally. They're keyboard, they're keyboard tough guys. They say it on Twitter and on Facebook.
So go ahead, dear.
I was going to say, they're not going to come and say it to you because you're a big dude too. I wanted to ask, and I may get the number right, but the Senate bill that went through for Marjorie Stoneham.
Yes.
Okay. So you voted opposing that.
Yes.
Was it the whole thing, or were there bits and pieces? Because you hear people say, well, I didn't really want to vote for A, B, and this because it had but most of it was good. So that's why I did it. Why did you just?
I voted against it because one of the things that it did is it actually infringed upon the Second Amendment constitutional rights of Floridians. There's always compromises when you deal with legislation, mm-hmm. but the one thing that can never be compromised is the Constitution. You cannot compromise that. I don't care what you're going to get in return. What the bill does, it takes away due process rights for gun owners in America through red flag laws. If I felt that you were a threat to me, and I felt you had a mental condition, I can call Lee County sheriffs and say, I'm scared. They have the authority under that bill to go into your home, search your home. If they find weapons, they can take your weapons. And then they give you a date in court for you to go back and try to get your weapons. But you already had your weapons taken from you without probable cause. Mm-hmm. What, just because on my word that you have your property taken, that is a complete perversion of the Fourth Amendment of the United States. That bill raised the age to buy shotguns and rifles from 18 to 21. The only reason that was in the bill is because Nicholas Cruz was 19 years old. So what am I going to tell every 19-year-old in my district that because Nicholas Cruz is a psychopath, now you can't go to Walmart and buy a shotgun? That's why I voted against that bill. Like I said, in legislation, you're going to compromise certain things. There's going to be a give and take, but there can never be a compromise when it comes to the Constitution. So anybody who says that, oh, well, you know, we made a good deal or we got rid of gun-free zones, you cannot compromise constitutional rights. Because the second you take that step, it's going to be open field for the left. And I'll tell you what happened after we passed that bill. Actually, before we passed that bill in the legislature, against my vote. But once that bill passed, the left, the moms demand action. We're all like, you have to do this. You have to do this. They praised the bill. The second it passed, they said it didn't go far enough. You should have done more.
Right.
It's never going to be enough for them.
Well, and you took some heat. From what I was reading, someone was saying because Trump supported that, and then that just fed that whole "you're not a Trump supporter."
You guys like straight talk?
Yeah.
Okay, here's the deal. So Dane Eagle, my opponent, voted for the bill. He has a C rating by the NRA. The NRA has endorsed me, really because of that bill.
Right.
Because that bill was constructed by Republican leadership. It wasn't the Democrats' bill. It was just the Republicans' bill. If there was ever a time you were going to stand for the Second Amendment, it's when you have to stand against your own party to do so. I've done that. Dane's excuse is President Trump talked about wanting red flag laws and raising the age to buy shotguns and rifles. And so he says, well, the president said it, so we did it. My point is, yes, the president said that in 2018, but as a legislator, you have a responsibility. You take an oath to the Constitution. You have to uphold the Constitution, even when it's not popular. Even when public opinion is against you, you still have to uphold the Constitution. What Dane doesn't tell you is that a year later, after the shootings in El Paso, Texas, the president made similar remarks, but then he met with congressional leaders. They did not push forward any legislation on federal red flag laws. And the president has not brought up that policy since that point in time. So it's one thing to talk about it in a speech. It's another thing to actually vote for it and enact it into law. And that's why people are saying, that's why Dane is saying that about how he stood with the president. What Dane's trying to do is cover his tracks because he betrayed the Second Amendment.
Why won't Casey Asgar debate anybody?
Because why?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to look bad. You got to understand, he's spending $3 million of his own money. He doesn't want to look bad. His team is hiding him. His team does not want him to debate. Because if you put him on a debate stage with myself, Dane, Dr. Fig, Christy McLaughlin, Dan Colwell, Dan Severson, Randy Henderson, Darren Aquino, he's not going to look like somebody who's prepared to lead Southwest Florida. That's why he won't debate. It's his best strategy is to run 30-second ads and hope that you never meet the man because he doesn't campaign. He doesn't go anywhere. To hope that you don't meet the man before you cast your vote for him. That's why he won't debate.
One of the things that I'm puzzled by, and maybe you can help me out on this, is why aren't more people conservative, more African Americans conservative? Why is it? I asked this question last night on our show. Why is it that it seems like the Democratic Party has a stranglehold on the African American community, like they've done some productive things for the community over the years, and I haven't seen any results? And why don't more people come to the conservative side and believe that if you work hard and you get a break, or you work hard and you learn, and this is America, you can be successful? It's almost like they're pounding it into you that, well, maybe you can't be successful.
Well, I would say this. The black community has been largely Democrat since the passage of the Civil Rights Act in '64. And since that passage of that act, which was signed by Lyndon Johnson, the black community has largely been a Democrat stronghold. That's the history. That's actually changing, though. And I'll tell you that younger black Americans, people my age and younger, we're actually not a monolith. And this is why what Joe Biden said the other day was absolutely ridiculous. Because
can you tell our listeners what you mean when you say what he said? What did he say?
Joe Biden said that he essentially said that unlike the black community, the Hispanic community is very diverse. And I was like, he said, except for the black community with a few exceptions. I guess I'm one of those exceptions. But the truth of the matter is that the black community is very diverse. We have conservatives. We have liberals. We have independents. We have libertarians. We have Republicans. We have Democrats. We are not a monolithic society. In the black community, we have people who love sports, and people who hate sports. We have people who love the arts and hate the arts. We have people who love comedies and people who just love dramas. We have people who work in finance or who work in the blue collar world. we're a very different community, just like every other community in the United States. But the Democrats always assume they just have the black vote. Typically how this works is every 4 years, and you've seen this, every 4 years what happens? America is racist. These Republicans are racist. They're not standing for you. They play the woman card. They play the race card. Every 4 years, it happens like clockwork. It seems that America's never getting better when you turn on the news and you watch TV ads or you watch debates. But when you're living in your normal life, we see that we operate in harmony and peace as Americans for the vast majority of the time. They want to bring flashpoints of things that happen and say, well, this is America. That's not true. What happened to George Floyd was a tragedy, but that's not America. America is me engaging with Lee County sheriffs here in Southwest Florida. That's America. It's when they patrol the streets of Dunbar and they actually engage with the citizens of Dunbar. That's America.
So what's the problem with the Republican recruiting tactics or techniques? Or I told you we're gonna have straight talk on this. Yeah, please.
So here's the deal. This is also the fault of Republicans for a very long time. The Republican Party, the RNC, and on down, has done a terrible job of actually campaigning for the votes of minority voters. For the most part, they've ignored minority voters for 30 years in our country because the political thought was by political consultants that we don't need their votes to win. We have enough votes over here. And so what's perpetrated this is the Democrats have said, we need your vote, we need your vote, we need your vote, haven't done anything. And Republicans have said, we don't really need those votes. We'll campaign in the suburbs. We'll campaign in rural America. We won't really campaign in urban corridors. And that's what's happened. So if you look at a heat map, if you will, of red versus blue across the country, what do you see? Urban areas are blue. Virtually every other part of the country is red. That's because you have political consultants who are telling, frankly, candidates like myself, although I don't listen to them, but they're telling candidates like myself, you don't have to go over there and campaign. You don't have to go over there and do this. We can win with just these amount of votes right here. But America is changing. And if the Republican Party is going to be successful, we have to campaign for all votes. That's going to be critical, not just to win elections, but if you look at what's happening in our culture, that's because we have a great divide in political ideology and what we truly believe what the future of the country can be based upon. And if you abandon half the country because you feel you don't need their votes, what you're also doing is letting political thought that is damaging to the American construct become more and more pervasive in our urban communities, and that hurts our politics more than anything else.
So should we defund the police? They're really starting to get on our nerves, aren't they?
No.
He says sarcastically. I hope everybody realizes
Let me say
that.
it again. No, we should not be defunding the police. Police are critical to our society. Look, if people for the most part are good, you know what I mean?
Right.
The police really only have to engage with probably about 15% of the society. For the most part, people live in harmony and peace. I mean, we're people, we can get angry, we can get upset, things happen. But if there is no blockade for moral and just behavior, if you don't have police there as just the appearance of deterrence, you immediately have lawlessness. Look what happened in Seattle. Look what's happening in Portland.
Right.
Have you ever driven down the road and you see the cop car and you start slowing down because you don't know if the cop is in it or not? But then you pass by, you'd be like, oh man, they just put the empty car on the side of the road. It's a deterrent, and then people speed up. But that's the thing. We need law enforcement as that one deterrence, just in case you have somebody in society who wants to take advantage of another. If men were angels, there would be no need for government. But guess what? We're not. We're all flawed. That's why you need law enforcement.
So they're starting to defund New York City, where you're from, and put it into, I don't know if social programs is the right word, but that's what it seems like to me. So is that the right approach?
No. That's why Bill de Blasio won't be mayor for very long, in my opinion. Because what they've already started to witness in New York is that crime is up. Murders are up. Why? Because the criminals know, well, shoot, response times just went from 3 minutes to 7 minutes. You can do a lot of damage in 5 minutes.
Yeah, right.
This is the problem. What most people don't know is that it's very hard for the police to catch you unless they actually catch you. Once you're gone, you kind of flee the scene. Now they have to go through evidence building. They got to see if there's videotape. They got to do all those things to kind of try to catch the perpetrator. And then they got to track you down. When you're moving your police into that kind of a response system, what you're really doing is you're taking down response times even more. So law-abiding citizens aren't getting the help they need when they need it.
When you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, when you were talking about putting money from one into social programs, are there social programs that you can point to that you really support for minorities or disenfranchised or
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think the first is education. I think there are real reforms in education. We talked about that. Mental health is something that we do have to invest in. We have some serious mental health issues in the United States. If you look at our local jails, every sheriff will tell you, the local jail is not just so much for holding people who are in on DUI. It's holding people who have mental health issues. That's what's a lot of our county jails across Florida and across the country. I think there's definitely programming around children and families. You know, children who are being abused, family courts, things where you have these issues that occur in our lives. Frankly, to be honest, in about 20 to 30% of the lives of Americans at some point in time, yes, those services need to be there. But taking it away from law enforcement is not the right way to go. What should be done is actually looking at what governments are actually doing, looking at the systems that don't work or need serious reforms, looking at things like Guardian Ad Litem, helping those programs, looking at things like making sure we're delivering meals to the indigent and the poor who really can't leave their home. That's stuff that government can do. We do that in Florida right now in our state government. But the problem is the left never wants to take a look at the policies that are not working. They just say, well, give those policies that aren't working more money, and let's give these new policies more money, but they never take the time to really organize and reassign where dollars go. And I think that's what frankly bothers and upsets conservatives, especially fiscal conservatives, because we're like, look, we have compassion and empathy. I do. Especially my background, I know the things that can go wrong in life. But you got to be smart about it.
We can go on for 2 hours with you,
I
Byron,
know.
with all this great information, but some bullet point things. Should
Sure.
there be another stimulus package for Americans?
It should be very, very streamlined. I lean no, frankly, but it should be very, very streamlined at a minimum.
Why no?
Because what we should be doing is reopening the economy. That's what we should be doing. Government, if we've proven anything, I'm gonna be shorter on this one. If we've proven anything through COVID-19, is that government cannot supply the needs of the American people. We can't get unemployment checks to you fast enough. We can't get business loans to you fast enough. Government doesn't have the ability or the capacity to do it. We have to act as individuals in commerce, in society, to make our lives better. That's the way this whole thing works.
Are we overreacting as a country to this virus?
Yes. I think people have to be prudent with their health. I think if you have health issues, you have to be very, very careful. But should we be on this kick of shutting down schools, shutting down society, reclosing businesses? No, that's the overreaction.
Was it a mistake to shut the government down, not the government, the economy down by the government when it happened?
I do. But I think what you got to look at is the information that was available at the time. We were looking at models where 2 million people were going to die in America. We were looking at a mortality rate of 3 to 5%, which is abnormally high. So you have leaders who had to respond to the information at hand. So it's, in some respects, you can't play Monday morning quarterback.
Okay.
The information that was there initially was very, very dire. Now we have real information. And there's no reason for us to be shutting down. We should be opening.
Are they using the Democrats and the media using the virus as a way to try and elect Biden and make sure Trump doesn't win?
Absolutely. Because if this was actually about our economy and about getting things done, what has Joe Biden done? I mean, Joe Biden's been in office longer than I've been alive. I'm 41 years old. What has he done? I'm being straight with you. What has he done? Like, what has he concretely done to the betterment of the country that we should now turn the keys of the country over to him?
What's your big issue when you go to Washington if you're elected that you want to change?
Oh, too much, too many. Quick blurps, term limits. They're desperately needed.
How many years?
8 years in the House, 12 years in the Senate, only because senators have 6-year terms. I think we have to have a true balanced budget amendment that isn't tied to raising taxes. It's actually tied to the economy. We do have to reform Social Security and Medicare so that people on those programs still get the benefits. While for younger people like myself, those systems have to be whole scale. They have to be wholly reformed because we simply can't afford them. We are not going to be able to afford those programs in another 15 years. That's not me talking. That's the Congressional Budget Office.
Favorite football team?
Cowboys. America's team.
Giant fan.
So you know what? So I'm from Brooklyn, New York, right?
How do you a Cowboys fan then?
Because the Giants, the Jets, and the Cowboys are always on TV. In the New York media market,
That's right.
The Cowboys are always on TV. So, I grew up watching the triplets, America's team. But my second favorite team is the Giants, the G-Men. So when they beat the Patriots those 2 times, man, I'm like cheering.
Everyone-
I'm like, yeah.
Everyone was a Giant
the
fan
helmet
at that
catch,
point.
I was loving it, man. It was great.
So who caught the helmet catch, dear?
Oh, I don't remember.
Do you know?
I don't-
David Tyree.
Oh, come on.
David Tyree.
No, I'm not.
Baseball team.
Yankees all day long.
Uh-oh. Boy.
Very nice. And college football, they're going to get back in action. How do they make that happen?
I hope so. You know, my oldest son is my size, so he's being
At
recruited.
9?
No, 16.
Oh.
That's a 16-year-old. I got 3 sons.
I knew
You've
you
got
had
3 sons. We interviewed Drew last night. He's got
who's
3
running-
daughters.
And Drew's running for your spot,
No,
right?
oh, he is.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got 3
Also,
daughters.
He's got
also
3
a
daughters.
conservative.
He is a
Great guy.
conservative. So I'll tell you this right now. So my oldest son's being recruited for football. I hope that they have the college season. Listen, we can have the college season. To the sport leagues in the country, you can socially distance in your stands. It's okay. All you got to do is put like the little do not sit tape across 3 seats and just sit people like that. This virtual seating. And I get it. They want to keep the players safe. So I understand the NBA doing the bubble. I understand that. In baseball stadiums, you can socially distance.
Big stadiums.
They're
Yeah.
big. They're massive open air stadiums. Socially distance. It's okay.
Why should people vote for Byron Donalds?
I'm a true conservative. I've actually been in the trenches of the conservative battles here in Southwest Florida and in Tallahassee. I think my 30-second ads are great, but if you actually listen to me discuss issues, I don't look at it in terms of what's happening today. I always look at public policy in the frame of limited government first, and really what governmental powers are and what their limits are, not just with American society, but in the history of the world. If you look at any history in the world, a government that oversteps its bounds with respect to the limits of its powers erodes the liberty of its people. Happens every time. And so we have to make sure we have leaders who understand that, who will respect it and protect it no matter what is going on in the country.
Have you been able to get to the gym much with all this campaigning?
So I'm a Beachbody guy, beachbody.com.
Oh, okay. It's
So
been
I
around a
work
long
out in my
time.
house, actually. So right now I'm in a mixture of Insanity and Body Beast. So I try to stay fit. The last 10 days have been a disaster. It's just too much campaigning. So I'm probably off this week, but then I'll take a day or 2 off after the election and I'll get back to it.
How many calories you're taking in a day?
Actually, I'm doing good this election cycle. I'm not pounding fast food like I did in previous election cycles.
Well, how are you packaging your food then?
Quest bar in the morning. I might have just some water. You know, I might get some body armor while I'm driving through as a way to keep up. That electrolyte stuff they sell at 7-Elevens, that stuff's amazing when you're out knocking doors. Keep your electrolytes up. I do love chicken wings, so I do the
Not on the diet. Come on.
Not on the diet. But I'm not at McDonald's. Okay, I'm not at McDonald's. I'm not pounding Big Macs and stuff like that. You know, I try to, if we're out, I try to eat somewhat healthy. A lot of fish, a lot of chicken.
How many push-ups can you do in a minute?
Oh my gosh.
Right now, 40, 45.
Not bad for
He's
41-year-old.
going to challenge
No,
you
I'm
to
not.
this.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
So what is it? 10 days left, right?
10 days.
And early voting starts today?
Starts today.
All right.
I need your vote.
Byron,
We'll
thanks
see.
a lot. We
you,
appreciate
guys.
it. Good
Yeah,
luck in the
thank you
race.
so
Thanks for
much.
coming
Thank
down.
you.
We appreciate you come all the way down here. Thanks a
Of
lot.
course,
Good luck.
absolutely.
Hope you can come back
See you
again.
guys.
Byron
Thank
Donalds,
you.
everybody, a true conservative. And don't forget to get out to vote on the 18th of August. It is the primary. And dear, I'll read the ads if you want to make sure that
You're not going to do push-ups now?
no push-ups today. I'm a little sore from I don't know what I'm sore from. All right, everybody, we do have a couple things to chat about before we say goodbye for the day. And I did want to tell you about our good friends at CCG Certified Public Accountants, over 100 years in tax preparation experience, 4 CPAs and 10 accounting professionals, 6 years in business. They can do your taxes remotely, and that's pretty cool because you don't want to be passing around that COVID thing or whatever you got. You got the blue sniffles, the snotties coming out of your nose, and that's the last thing you need to be doing to pass it along to Steve and there's folks out there. We've been using CCG for over a decade, and that's no joke. And so if you need somebody that you can trust when it comes to this kind of thing, trust is the most important thing. So you want to give them a call, 239-992-1973, 239-992-1973, CCG Certified Public Accountants. And the wife is going to come back in the picture now. I don't know why she disappeared, to tell you about the great experience we always have at the Tiki Fort Myers Tiki Tours. We went on the Fort Myers Tiki Tours for Father's Day. You look exhausted, dear.
I am exhausted.
Byron
It's
is
lot
a
of
package of energy and
Yep.
information. So before we get to your little turtle excavation deal there that we're going to chat about before we go, tell them about the Tiki Tours and how much fun that is.
So we went on the Tiki tour. What was that? There was some special
Father's Day.
Oh, right. Father's Day.
Loser.
Anyways, we went on the Tiki tours. It was a hoot. We had a great time. We had a great captain. They provide the ice. You bring whatever adult or child drinks that you want to bring. You can bring the food. They go up and down the bay at a very slow speed. It's not scary whatsoever.
Nope.
If you want to, you can pick up
All natural.
garbage along the way. We picked up a bottle, and then I dropped something. So we took care of that.
Get to the point. Give the phone number out. It's a great time. We love these guys.
239.
They've been with us from the beginning. We really appreciate it.
887-0042. They have sunset tours, dolphin tours. They do birthday parties, anniversary cruise. I will
Socially
say
distancing too.
Yeah, there's six little seats on there. You can sit around the little bar there, and we learned some interesting stories about people who get crazy on those things.
We did?
Yeah.
Share one.
That he said that I suggested that the craziest group would probably be the 25 and under, and he corrected me to say no, it was actually the women 50 and over.
Wow. Yeah, the
So,
crazy ladies.
There you go.
So before we get to your turtle story, real quick, I want to make sure everybody knows that our news website is up. Our first newsletter went out on Thursday. It's beachtalkradio.news.com. And we're covering the council meetings. And you've been down here more than ever covering things that go on the beach. And we had Eve give us an update on the turtle hatchlings. And we have other things that are in the works, like columns from Matt Love from the fire department and the ferry pod lady and
Ranger
so many other
Rob.
people. Ranger Rob's been great. And
Ranger Rob has invited me. We haven't been able to hook up yet to go out on a kayak tour, but he sent me an amazing picture, and I'm putting it up of a manatee that came right up to the boat. You can see its nose, you can see its eyes. It is adorable. Unfortunately, one of the times that we were scheduled to go out, he had to go up to, I believe it was Port Charlotte, to help out a manatee who, unfortunately, that did not turn out well. So please, I don't know the circumstances, but please, if you're out on a boat, please obey those manatee zones. Please go slow. If you see one, call FWC so that the animal can get some help.
Yes, and we also have interview with the new women's club president, Catherine. She's going to be part of next week's news, and you're going to get the newsletter every Tuesday and Thursday. If you subscribe to it, it's free, of course, and you can go on beachtalkradio.news.com and subscribe to the newsletter. At the top, it says newsletter, and that's how you subscribe to it. And the website is always going to be there, and the show is always going to be here. And we want to thank Nervous Nellies and JPS Vacation Rentals. She's selling a hat. Vacation Rentals. She wants 4 hats. Go sell the hats. I'll just no, I'm just kidding. We're almost done anyway. So all the thanks to everybody here. Pete's Time Out, Margaritas, and all that. And go ahead, dear. You can take care of that.
Well, you go take care of it, and I'll tell my turtle story.
I'll fill people in on what else is going on and make a quick transaction here. And she needs to tell her turtle story, folks. So please hang out for a second. And again, you can log on to beachtalkradio.news.com. We also, I knew I was forgetting something. We have a brand new news app. And thank you, Judy, for saying that. We appreciate it. We know you don't really mean that, but thank you very much. And we appreciate you 9 listeners sticking around for this is now going on an hour and a half. By the way, her birthday's coming up on the 12th of August. So we're going down to the Hyatt Regency Coconut Point today to hang out. And so you can download our app from the Apple App Store. And by the way, the Android is almost ready. It's in the testing phase now. And what you'll get from the app is you'll get like push notifications for breaking news. And that's kind of cool. So now
I'm keeping the money for the
story.
hats.
Okay.
She bought 5.
She bought 5 hats.
Yes.
Wow.
So
Bonanza.
yeah. Well,
Go ahead. Tell us your turtle story.
So I went out. I
Short
was
and sweet.
invited by Eve and Cindy Johnson was so nice to take me out and do a 3-day dig, which is 3 days after the sea turtle nest hatches. They go out, they dig it up to see if there's any hatchlings that need help getting out and to count the eggs that were in there. So this woman had to dig and dig and dig. She was almost above her elbow. Those guys are deep in there, and dug out approximately 111, I believe, turtle shells that hatched. And so that's great because they're having a bonanza year of nests and a bonanza year of little ones making it out there. Now, once they get out there, very few of them survive. So that's
It's
why
such
it's
a shame.
important to
Why
have
is
that
it that
many
we
go out.
can't? We can do so many things, but we can't figure out how to save the turtles.
Well, you can. You can save the turtles by make sure they nest okay. And
There comes your money.
All right. Well, you go take it.
You're going to finish your story?
And so
Can't you walk and talk at the
anyways,
same time?
Then I went down to another nest, and you could see all their little footprints that went out, and there was a family there that were renting, and they were a little disheartened that they missed the night before the turtles coming out, but they did say how they were well informed about the lighting and they obeyed the lighting, and that is exactly why all of those turtles
She's going
survived
like this. I
and
don't know
got
what
out.
that means. You might want to take
All
care
right.
of that. So that was such a thrilling turtle story. I really do love the turtles, and I wish we could figure out a way to save more turtles. I mean, why is it that so many turtles have to pass away on their way to the water? It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, we can save so many things, but can't save the turtles. It's just sad, just very sad.
Great. You lost the sale.
The whole sale?
Yep.
Why?
Because it didn't say Florida on it.
Oh, well, maybe I need to add for. I'll write it with a marker. I got a Sharpie.
Go tell her, see if she'll.
All righty.
repay.
Well, what are you going to do? We have plenty of hats, everybody.
So
So,
yes.
by the way, thanks to Jim Adderholt. He's kind of pushing me. The whole nuisance abatement thing was very interesting. I don't know that I'll ever believe in more rather than less. And Jim's a conservative too, which is very interesting.
I think when about the money thing, and I asked the question, and he brought up the point that those agencies like the fire board and the sheriff could come up with a price that
Thank you,
that would be
Kathy.
something that goes on. That would be a good thing.
Yes, and once again, we would like to invite Ken Conadieris on the show at any time to come down. We'll all bury the hatchet together, or we can send the wife over to the Lonnie Kai, and she can interview without me because I could be an ass sometimes, and I totally get that. So she's never an ass. She's never been an ass. She never will be an ass, but she does have a birthday coming up next week, so it's time for us to go celebrate that birthday, if you know what I mean. And that means we're going to go hang out somewhere.
Yep.
Just want to make that clear. Thank you, everybody, and bye-bye.